Away from the Citadel podcast, hosted by Charlie Fawcett and Luke Helliwell.
Welcome to Away from the Citadel, the Farsley Celtic podcast. Today, once again, joined by Charlie. How are you doing today, Charlie?
I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. And we're joined by a special guest today, George. How are you doing?
Not too bad, yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good.
George, obviously Farsley Celtic fan, so just a few questions about the situation of what's going on at Farsley Celtic Football Club. So we'll just dive straight into it. First of all, when did you start going down and watching Farsley Celtic?
So I started going just before COVID. So I think it was the COVID season. My first game was Chester at home. I think it was just before the season that it got finished halfway through because of COVID.
Yeah. Were you watching football before you started going to watch that Farsley Celtic?
Yeah, I'd been to Barnsley a few times because my best mate's a Barnsley fan, so that was easy to get tickets for. And then I used to go to Leeds while Bielsa were there. I was not like a diehard. The only club I've truly supported is Farsley Celtic.
And how did that attachment come about then? Was it just going down to the games and just falling in love with
it? Yeah, it were instant. Like as soon as so it was my cousin that said, "Oh, should we go watch a game at Farsley?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sound." Got down there and just the whole community feel of it. There used to be quite a large group of young lads, and there were decent atmosphere and that. So that's what drew me there, and also it was cheaper than going to Leeds or anywhere else. So that was a major pulling factor.
Yeah, so as you mentioned your love for Farsley Celtic, what does Farsley Celtic mean to you?
I mean, for me personally, it's more of an addiction than anything, a crippling one financially and mentally. But I mean, it's not just for me. I just love it. It's just it's everything that my life does revolve around it, probably more than it should do. But yeah, it sways my moods. It determines what I'm doing that weekend. It determines how much me and my wife spend that weekend. It's it genuinely does. When you really deep it determines what goes on in your life completely.
Yeah, I think a lot of football fans can look at that and say the football club means absolutely everything to them. Obviously, Farsley Celtic over the past few seasons have been in relegation battles and staying up on the final day. What's that emotion like when your team survives on the final day of the season?
When you do it for a third time, it's you just think there's just something within the club and it'll just never go down. Although this season, I'm pretty sure that that feeling is well and truly being diminished. But yeah, it is very emotional. I mean, the first time we stayed up on final day, I was proposing to my wife. On the second time, we lost, and it was Spennymoor away, and we lost, but other results determined that we stayed up. So that was quite good. We took quite a lot of fans there that day because we knew what were at stake. So that were a good atmosphere after the game. It were unfortunate for Spennymoor actually because they'd made it into playoffs because that season they were I think down to 14th could have made it into the playoffs on the final day, which is just how National League North is. It's fantastic for stuff like that. They won, beat us, and then I think it was Scarborough scored in the last minute of their game. So they went. Spennymoor fans were a jubilation. We're all still celebrating, and then Scarborough scored, and they've all gone, flipping out. And then obviously last season was the best one by far. It at home and we won, so it was in our hands. You know what I mean? So I think that was the best time that we stayed up on the final day of the season.
Yeah, obviously in them situations you want to do it yourself, don't you? You want to win yourself and survive. And obviously that being at the Citadel, but fortunately times have been tough and you've not been playing there this season. What's it been like supporting a team that haven't got a home ground?
Difficult, very difficult, especially because it's not just not having a home ground; it's everything else that's happened alongside it. And so emotionally, it's been very draining. It feels like you're constantly trying to fight someone, and it's been difficult. I mean, obviously you have the financial aspect of it as well, where I think I did 30, I think it was nearly 30 or it was 30 away games in a row. which does take its toll financially. I know Barthorpe in Enville saying that we're free travel to away game for home games to Buxton, but at the end of the day, you were still forking out to go and eat out over there when usually we'd just be at home. That I can walk down to ground 5 minutes, then you're back home for tea. So it did have a lot of effects, mainly financially, and then massively emotionally as well. Not just for me, but for the entire fan base.
Yeah, it obviously must be tough, and obviously I want to touch back on something from the past. We mentioned Paul Barthorpe, but the changing the colour and the colour of the kits and the crest. Do you want to see Farsley Celtic return to the original colours?
Yeah, but we have so much more to focus on before that. I think it's definitely something that will be, worth fighting for once we've got a pitch, essentially. Like, once we've got a pitch and we've gone into next season and see where we are, I think then that's something that we can start bringing up with board. I mean, we've already mentioned it, and they've received it well. Quite a few fans have mentioned it. Obviously, the main one being going from the Citadel back to Throstle Nest. Kits and badges are a bit harder to do. Nothing simple with football clubs. Nothing simple. You can't just go, right, I just want to change my badge back. There is, things that have to happen for that to happen. But yeah, that is definitely something that I think most fans, if not all, will be looking to try and make happen at some point.
Yeah, hopefully that does come into fruition. It would be nice. I'm going to pass over to Charlie now for a few more questions.
Yeah, so you talk about there's some things that you think are more worth fighting for than the badge and the crest and stuff like that. Obviously, you've got a new team of people that are fighting for those things. What are your feelings towards the new board at the moment?
I'm happy to give them time, even because there's a lot of people who, and rightly so, they can have that opinion, and I can understand where they're coming from because it's the same board that were there under Paul. But I think they deserve a chance. They deserve full backing, and what can they make happen? They've got an opportunity to really make things happen and essentially save the club, and that's something that they can have their heads held high about. But I think they should be given that chance. And from the meetings that I've had with them, they've drawn me in. I'm well and truly on board. Obviously, that's subject to change. Something terrible could happen, but for now, I'm definitely on board with what's going on, and I wish them all the best. And if I can do anything to help, I'm there, ready to do it.
So that being said, you definitely think that they have got the club at heart, like?
Yeah, the board. I think the board do. I think the board definitely do, and there's still bits of me that thinks that I don't know if Paul got into it for wrong reasons. I don't think he did. I just think he was. Do you know, like with food, you can be eyes bigger than belly? I think he were a bit like that, but with football and money and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the board definitely have the club at heart. I don't think there's anything sinister behind what they're doing. But yeah, I'm happy to give him a chance, and there's a weird bit of me that is actually quite excited. Like, I'm quite excited to see what happens now. So yeah, I'm happy to give him a chance, and we'll be fully backing him, until something terrible happens.
Yeah. Well, moving on to the on-pitch stuff. Obviously, we had David Stockdale on last week, the first team manager. Lovely guy, by the way. But do you think he is the right man for the job at the minute?
Yes, at the minute, yeah. Like, I think he's the perfect man for the job. The way that he handles people, how down to earth he is. Without saying too much, how he's dealt with the board and what he's taken away from this opportunity. He's a great guy. Honestly, I can't fault him. He's not the way that he treated the fans is brilliant. Even at the first spot he came, he didn't have to, but he came to the first supporters club meeting that we had with the new a couple of the new board members. Well, not new board members, but the new custodians of the club. He spoke to everybody. He were reassuring. Even, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but he put a few quid behind bar, bought everyone around. He's that type of guy. I think he represents the values of what the club is really well. On the pitch, it's hard to say because he's got a team of what is mostly academy lads. I know there's still some decent first team footballers in there. but it's mainly academy lads now. I don't think he'll stop believing. Stocky, the way that he talks, he says, "You never know. We could still stay up. You have no idea what's going to happen." But essentially, it's like a free hit on the pitch in it this season. I think all the main priorities for the football club is off the pitch, so it's a lot of pressure off his back. So I think he's the perfect man to guide us through this turbulent time because he's so calm, level-headed. The way that he treats people, it's really refreshing. The honesty, he's just really, really refreshing, and it's nice to see. And I really like him.
Yeah, we were saying the same thing because with a squad of such young players, we think he's the perfect guy to almost nurture him. You know what I mean? Because he's just such a nice guy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But that brings us on to the next question quite well, because what we were going to say was, do you think that for Farsley, National League North survival should be a priority at this point, or do you think the results are secondary?
It's definitely secondary,
if
not tertiary. It's like it is nowhere. It is not the priority this season. Staying in National League North. If anything, that'll just make next season much more difficult. My personal prediction for the club is that we'll go down, and I can't see us. I think it'd be a big job staying up again in League Below. If you look, I mean, all you have to do is look at what's happened to BPA and what's happening to Blythe. I don't know if BPA had financial struggles, so someone can correct me on that. But they got double relegated. That was on the second season we stayed up on the final day when we played Spennymoor. Then last season you've got Blythe. They've had their struggles. They've had to start a GoFundMe and stuff like that. They're looking like they're going to get relegated again. There's no right for us to stay up in the league below. The money in that league now, what they're spending in that league now is what they were spending in National League North 7 to 5 years ago. It's all going up like that. I personally think that we'll probably go to Northern Premier East, and I think we'd probably rebuild in there. But I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But.
Yeah, well, a bit of a hypothetical one now. We were saying, if you were a sponsor looking into investing in Farsley Celtic, obviously you don't know all the details, but how would you feel, seeing the club as a prospect at the minute?
I think with the clarity that we get loads more clarity now with obviously the new custodians of the club. I think I'd be looking to, I won't not do it. I think I can see why people are skeptical, but I think as long as Paul Barthorpe isn't involved, sorry, I keep hitting the tail with that. As long as Paul Barthorpe isn't involved, because no one will work with him anymore. That's one of the reasons why the board ran him out of the club. If I were a sponsor, I'd look into doing it definitely. And I think people should, especially local businesses. At the end of the day, even if it all does go all wrong, then you've done what you can to save your local club.
Absolutely. So one more question we've got is just, obviously there's a lot more positivity around Farsley at the minute, but do you think the club will manage to come out of the rough patch and survive as a football club now?
Yeah, I think so, because there's been a lot of positive meetings with the correct people regarding trying to get a pitch down. But to be contrary to that, we've got till the end of the month to get a pitch, like not fully down, but you have to show you have to show progress of a pitch being laid. So like it'd be like topsoil and just seeded, but essentially is what we'd need by the end of the month. But there also could be negotiations that mean the league or whoever gives us a bit of a grace period because of what we've been through. So I think we'll be fine, but we'll see.
I mean, we were at the supporters club meeting, not the supporters club meeting, sorry, the open supporters meeting the other week.
One, yeah,
we were there, and the board did seem pretty confident that they'll be able to get a pitch down and they'll come away from the match. They'll get away from the match.
Apparently, it wasn't right great that meeting.
They got a bit heated.
Yeah,
they did get a bit heated.
Yeah, I just think that I think there's people that are going to get a bit outed now. I think now that Paul's gone, I think some people are going to get outed for if they were just jumping on the bandwagon of wanting something to hate, and if they actually care about the club. That don't mean that because they've got a different opinion to mine, that don't mean they care. I just mean I think some people are going to. Well, I think actually some people just disappear now. and that you won't hear from them again. But because I from what I could work out, I wasn't there at that meeting because I'd already been to the supporters club one, which by the way, I wish you were at that one because that was fantastic, really fantastic. No one's shouting over each other, no one's aggressive. Everybody just loads of questions, and not just easy. Oh, what's happening with this? Quite intense questions, but the board were allowed to answer. It were a brilliant meeting, and Stocky were there as well, giving his 50 pence on it all. So it was that were a better meeting. I wish you were at that, but yeah, apparently some people sort of went there with an agenda on that second meeting.
It's hard for us to really judge in it because we're looking from the outside and in, but I think I felt a bit bad for the board because they couldn't really get the words out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and do you know what it is like for the new custodians of the club? They're all learning on spot here. Like this is all. I mean, there's every week there's new stuff coming out that of situations Paul's left us in, and they're having to think on the feet, deal with people. I mean, I had one board member I know he's doing like 2 or 3 meetings a night. You got to remember all these guys. So John Wickham, I don't know how many companies he runs, but he's doing all that, then trying to do meetings. Josh, he's got meetings. He's got a full-time job, and then he's doing meetings after. Stubbsy, John Stubbs, he runs his own like building company, and then he has to do all the meetings as well. You got to keep in mind these guys are the volunteers at the end of the day. They're not getting any financial gain out of this club at all. Yeah,
absolutely. Because, well, like you said, we did feel sorry for them because while they're putting all their effort in, it did feel a bit like a shouting match at the meeting. Yeah. But I think that's all we've got time for anyway on this episode. Thanks a lot for joining us, George. It's
all right.
It's been great to get an insight from a supporter's perspective. And thanks again from Luke, of course. And we'll see you next time.
Away from the Citadel podcast, hosted by Charlie Fawcett and Luke Helliwell.